Revenge with Karen. He called me unprepared as he fired me, unprepared, while holding the goddamn prototype I spent 10 years building. His fingers left grease on it. His smug little laugh echoed in the conference room like a fart in church. Let me rewind 24 hours, give or take a betrayal. Friday, 8:42 a.m., fluorescent hell. I was running on 3 hours of sleep and a bad croissant from the vending machine, hunched over my desk like a gremlin in ergonomic captivity. My hair was frizzed out like a dandelion with trust issues, and my email pinged with another calendar invite from Kyle. Marcy's materials pitch execs optional. Smiley face. I stared at that little bastard emoticon like it owed me child support. Kyle, 35, tight pants, tighter ego, had been my boss for 6 months. 6 months of watching him butcher acronyms, misread metrics, use the phrase synergy pipeline without irony. He'd been brought in during the restructure that demoted me from senior project lead to glorified lab ghost. They said it was temporary, like athlete's foot or fascism. Anyway, I'd been quietly developing a polymer, lightweight, thermally adaptive, self-healing under low voltage. Sounds boring to you? To infrastructure firms, it's Viagra for buildings. And I didn't tell anyone. Not because I'm paranoid, because I've played this game. When you're a quiet woman in your 40s with a resting burnout face, every idea you share ends up on someone else's LinkedIn brag. But Kyle got wind of it. Some intern must have squealed. Suddenly, he's dragging me into a pitch opportunity like I'm some wet-behind-the-ears startup founder begging for Shark Tank scraps. I tried to say no. He told me it was good for visibility. I should have said it'd be good for colonoscopy, too. Now, before we go any deeper, just real quick, 97% of folks listening to these stories haven't subscribed. That's wild. We're down here pouring our busted little hearts into these tales while eating off-brand Pop-Tarts and praying the mic doesn't cut out. So if you're enjoying this, hit that like and subscribe. It actually does help the crew keep the lights on and the drama flowing like boxed wine at a divorce party. Back to the horror show. Walk into the boardroom, and Kyle's already got his laptop plugged in. He's tweaked my slides, by which I mean he replaced my technical diagrams with stock photos of smiling engineers and added Comic Sans captions like the future is light. I looked at it and nearly chewed through my own molars. He opened the meeting with, "We've got something Marcy's been tinkering with. It's early, real scrappy, but hey, we're all friends here." Then he winked. At the CTO, I started explaining the lattice framework and voltage curves, trying to salvage the carnage, but Kyle kept interrupting. "Can you dumb it down a bit? Let's not bore them with formulas, right?" He made a joke about me being a wizard in the lab, not a TED talker. One of the execs fake laughed. When I tried to pull up the demo, the file had been moved. Kyle shrugged. Guess someone forgot to prep. After the meeting, he told me not to take it personally, that sometimes brilliant minds aren't the best presenters. Then he handed me a thin white envelope. No warning, no severance. Just 2 HR signatures and a line that read effective immediately. I walked out holding that envelope like it was radioactive. My cubicle already had a box by it. Someone had prepacked my stapler and my stupid little desk cactus. Outside, I sat in my car in the farthest spot in the lot, where the asphalt cracks like dried skin. I sat there shaking so hard the keys rattled in the ignition, and then, like a damn prophecy, I saw it. My glove box had popped open during the drive in that morning. Inside, folded like a forgotten love letter, was the notarized patent paperwork, filed under Marcia L. Greer. Ownership, 100%. Licensing rights, hers to sell. My breath caught like a hiccup in the soul. I wasn't unprepared. He was. Didn't even get to click the damn remote. Kyle had already hijacked the projector, grinning like a game show host on meth, and opened his version of my deck, 10 slides of corporate clip art, half of them animated, one of them featuring a stock photo of a woman in a hard hat who looked like she smelled faintly of printer ink and regret. "Marcy's been cooking up something cool," he told the room like I was a child who made a macaroni sculpture. Very conceptual. Think next-gen meets eco-conscious smart tech. I just stood there. My original deck, the one with the stress test data, the time-lapse lattice evolution under variable voltage, the one with proof, was nowhere in sight. The execs nodded, politely dead inside. They were all men in golf polos and Fitbits, all blinking in unison like lizards watching a ceiling fan. I started to speak. "Well, originally Marcy's not really used to presenting," Kyle chuckled, stepping slightly in front of me like I was a decorative plant. "She's the brains, I'm just here to give it some legs. Legs. The man just compared himself to a pair of business legs. I felt my stomach fold in on itself. My hands went cold. Rage is funny like that. Some people feel heat. I get refrigerator fingers. I opened my mouth again to explain the scalability of the polymer, and he cut in again. "Let's not get bogged down in equations," he said, flipping to a slide that said disruption. In all caps. "What matters is the vision, lightweight, responsive material for modern cities. Right?" He looked to me for a nod like I was his intern. I nodded, because I couldn't feel my own teeth. Then he dropped the line. The one that still echoes in my skull like tinnitus dipped in bleach. "She wasn't quite prepared today, but we're excited to build this out as a team." "Right, Marcy?" The execs nodded, bored, ready checking their watches and phones. Someone yawned. One guy got up for another bottle of Fiji. I blinked. My slides, my equations, my damn material was just reduced to vibes. After the meeting, Kyle clapped me on the back like a pastor after a bad confession. "Tough crowd, huh?" he said, fake smiling like buttocks gone wrong. "You ambushed me," I said. He shrugged. "Just trying to give you exposure. You gotta learn to pitch, Marcy. We're not in the lab anymore." He handed me the envelope. It was white, plain, no logo. "You're letting me go?" I said, but it came out slow like underwater. He nodded. "It's just not working, and honestly, you're not exactly a culture fit. No hard feelings." He actually said no hard feelings. Like I was supposed to hug him and thank him for the character development. I didn't cry, not yet. I just walked. Past the cubicles. Past the receptionist with pity eyes. Out through the double doors that needed a new hydraulic closer, because they slammed so hard it sounded like thunder behind me. I got into my car and sat in silence. No radio, no tears, just that envelope in my lap and my knuckles white on the steering wheel. And somewhere in my chest, a wire finally snapped. It didn't make a sound, but I heard it. I sat there like a crash test dummy that missed the impact. Just breathing, just blinking, just being in that pathetic way grief makes you exist, half aware, full volume ache behind the eyes, taste of metal in the throat. The heat was rising in the car, but I didn't turn the engine on. Couldn't move. Just watched the sun do its cruel little dance across the windshield, lighting up the fine layer of dust on the dashboard that I'd never had time to clean. I looked down at the envelope. White, flimsy, corporate death notice. Signature at the bottom was from a girl named Becky in HR who wore perfume so strong it could peel paint. She'd once asked me if polymers were like those things in yoga mats. I tore the envelope in half, then into fourths, then eighths. By the time I hit sixteenths, I was sobbing, fists full of confetti, breath catching in short, embarrassing hiccups that made me feel like a child locked out of the house. Was I really unprepared? Had I been so wrapped up in building something that I forgot how the game was played? Was I just some washed-up lab rat clinging to 10 years of delusion in a building that stopped seeing me 3 reorgs ago? I thought about calling my sister. She'd say something like, "You're better off. They never deserved you." But she wouldn't mean it. She'd just be trying to keep me from spiraling. I didn't want pity. I wanted one more damn day to prove what I'd built wasn't science fiction. Then the glove box creaked open. It must have popped during my white-knuckled slam into the parking lot pothole. I glanced at it absently, about to shove it closed, when I saw the corner of that manila folder. My hands moved before I did, pulled it out like it was sacred scripture. Application No. 62/948,770, composite polymeric material with integrated adaptive microstructures filed under Marcia L. Greer status, patented, approved, notarized, stamped, legal, mine. My heart didn't race. It stopped. In the blur of layoffs and late nights, I'd forgotten I'd filed it. Almost a year ago, when I first sensed the winds shifting, the new VP with his golf swing and crypto portfolio started circling like a hawk looking for meat to steal. I'd done the thing they never expect you to do, the thing quiet women never get credit for. I'd been ready. I leaned back in my seat, tears still sliding, but something else now pushing against the sorrow, like steel breaking through wet cement. I wiped my nose with an old Wendy's napkin, tossed it onto the floor, stared at that patent like it owed me rent. They fired me with a smile, but they didn't know I'd already lit the fuse, and it was about to hit the powder. That night, I didn't sleep, I dismantled. I stripped off the grief like a skin I couldn't stand in anymore, chucked it in the trash with the takeout containers and stale hope. By 1:17 a.m., I was sitting at my kitchen table in a pair of old sweatpants, and my dad's Cleveland Browns hoodie, booting up my rusty Dell laptop like I was launching a missile. First order of business, incorporation. I pulled out his old legal pad from the junk drawer, the one with coffee rings and half a NASCAR bracket still penciled on the back. Company name? I didn't want it to scream revenge. I wanted it to whisper inevitability. So I used my father's initials, HG, Materials LLC, home address. Mine. Let them think it was some backyard nothing burger if they even managed to trace it. Let Kyle's weasel nose sniff around all he wanted. I wasn't handing him a damn breadcrumb. I filed the paperwork online, paid the state fee, and watched the confirmation email hit my inbox like a pulse, returning to a corpse. Next, I dusted off an old binder labeled Future Hires. It was something I'd made back when I still believed our company could grow ethically. Inside, names of former interns I trained, mentored, vouched for when the good all boys said they lacked polish. 2 stood out like neon signs in a blackout. Jules, procurement specialist now knee-deep in the city's infrastructure bidding pipeline. Tommy, junior engineer turned urban development planner for Metro Phase 5. I hadn't talked to them in years, but they owed me. Hell, one of them cried on my office floor during his exit interview. I drafted a simple message, need to meet. You owe me one, trust me, it's worth it. Sent, no explanation. No details, they replied within the hour. By 3:30 a.m., I had a new email address, a temporary domain, a locked Dropbox folder titled Veritas with every technical doc I'd ever written, and a short list of contractors I knew had hated working with Kyle's firm. The hum of rage had quieted. Now it was just cold, clicking logic. At 6:15 a.m., I flipped on the coffee pot and stood barefoot in my kitchen like a general surveying a battlefield. I'd cleared the table, unrolled blueprint paper I'd stolen from the office 3 months ago when they threatened to go paperless, and began sketching it out. Week 1. Identify target contractors. Week 2. Secure private meetings. Week 3. Deliver prototype demo. No marketing fluff. No partners. No exposure. Just me. The science. The silent detonation waiting to happen. I took a pen, drew a small circle in the corner of the page, and wrote one word inside, reclaim. Then I underlined it, twice. The human body isn't meant to survive on gas station coffee, 2 protein bars, and spite. But somehow, mine did. I pulled my first all-nighter fueled by rage, Peanut M and MTKS, and a Spotify playlist labeled Kill Mode. Somewhere around 3 a.m., the delirium started talking. My dad's old recliner creaked like it approved. My cat Muffin stared at me from the counter like she'd just witnessed a war crime. I didn't care. I was rewriting the pitch deck like it was gospel. By dawn, I had a clean 10-slide deck, no clip art, no Comic Sans, no buzzwords, just science, data, function. I distilled 10 years of innovation into a 6-page white paper, complete with stress simulations, life cycle data, a projected ROI curve that would make a CFO weep. Then I bootstrapped a basic demo site using some free template and HTML I half remembered from a coding elective in '98. It looked like hell, but worked like heaven. Interactive module, dynamic load modeling, embedded CAD fly-through. Functional flashy. That was my whole life in a tagline. By noon, I met Jules in a Panera Bread parking lot, a criminal handing over state secrets. She climbed into my passenger seat still wearing her procurement badge and whispered, "You look like hell. What's going on?" "I built a material that could change urban infrastructure," I said, passing her the tablet. "And they fired me. Kyle's trying to steal it." She scrolled for 30 seconds, eyes darting across graphs, before muttering, "Jesus. This is cleaner than anything we've seen from corporate in years." I looked her dead in the eye. "You get me 5 minutes with the city contractor?" She exhaled hard. 5, maybe. But you better blow their mind. 5 hours later, I was sipping gas station tea outside CityWorks HQ, waiting for Tommy. He showed up in a wrinkled polo, and that same holy crap it's you face interns always give when they realize you didn't die in a cubicle. He walked me in through the side entrance, badge swipe, no questions, ducked into a tiny conference room smelling like old toner and broken dreams. I gave the pitch like it was the State of the Union, short, sharp, clinical. I handed him a copy of the white paper and a QR code to the demo site. He sat in silence for 5 minutes before finally saying, "We've been looking for exactly this." And then, "You can do a live demo, give me 48 hours. That night, back in the garage, I stripped down the prototype and rebuilt it from scratch twice. I forgot to eat, forgot to pee. My hands cramped so bad I had to wrap them in ice packs between sessions. Meanwhile, Kyle was out there doing his little song and dance. Word reached me through the procurement grapevine that he was already teasing proprietary smart mesh materials to the same contractor. Only problem, he didn't have the specs, didn't have the data. All he had were fragments. Screenshots, maybe a printout or two from my early-stage folder before I wiped it clean. Kyle was pitching a skeleton. I was about to bring the beating heart. At 3:17 a.m., the prototype finally stabilized under simulated voltage stress. No flicker, no decay. I collapsed onto the cold garage floor, arms spread, concrete digging into my spine like truth. This wasn't a gamble anymore. This was war. The text came at 7:04 a.m., just as I was pouring milk into a bowl of cereal that had been expired since the Obama administration. Jules, heads up. They're trying to claim IP. Internal memo just dropped, Kyle's naming the mesh project as company property. Quiet rollout. No broadcast. I didn't respond. I just stared at the bowl until the flakes turned into mush. Then I dumped the whole thing in the sink and turned on the kettle like nothing happened. Because at this point, my rage had gone nuclear winter. I logged into the company's intranet using my old credentials, still active, bless their incompetence, and dug up the memo. Subject line, emerging IP asset, smart mesh initiative language, ambiguous, strategic bullshit. Early-stage material design previously in development under former staff member MG, now reassigned under department head Kyle B. for refinement and pitch presentation. No dates. No names. Just enough sleaze to imply they'd been fostering the project all along, like proud parents of an idea they found under a dumpster and gave a bath. Kyle thought he could Frankenstein my work into a deliverable. He thought if he slapped enough corporate jargon on top, the bones wouldn't smell. Then Tommy called. No hello. Just, did you know Kyle's team is meeting with the contractor at 10 a.m. Thursday? That was 36 hours from now. Same window I gave to deliver the live demo. He kept talking, nervous. Their pitch deck was vague. They had no test data. Honestly, I think Kyle believes he's got this in the bag. I didn't flinch. Let him think that, because this wasn't just theft. This was arrogance in heat. He'd rifled through the company drive and found one of my early concept PDFs, dated, unrefined, full of deliberate dead ends I'd built in just in case. Old voltage simulations that capped at 3V before melting down. A thermal expansion model that didn't account for microfracture stress. I'd booby-trapped the damn thing like a digital minefield. I wanted him to take the bait. And Kyle? He was a seagull in a suit. By noon, I knew everything I needed to know. They'd name-drop my framework, use my test language, maybe even wave a mock-up I built for Teg's pitch 2 years ago that never saw the light of day. They didn't have the prototype. They didn't have the math. And most importantly, they didn't have the patent. I pulled the original files off my offline drive, encrypted the backups, and printed a fresh legal packet to bring with me to the contractor meeting. Included a notarized letter from my IP attorney confirming sole ownership and date of filing. No one was going to gaslight me out of my own creation. I'd played the game long enough to know the rules. Now I was rewriting them, on my terms. I pulled into the lot at 8:56 a.m. sharp, the kind of sharp that slices clean through denial and lands in the gut like a blade made of receipts. My trunk had the prototype. My satchel had the legal docs. My veins had enough caffeine and vengeance to run a small power grid. The contractor's HQ was a gray slab of brutalist arrogance, concrete panels, sunglare windows, corporate sculpture out front that looked like it was weeping over a lost pension. But I walked through those revolving doors like I owned the building. Because this time, I did. At least, I owned what mattered. The front desk recognized me. Jules had cleared the way. A security badge was waiting with my name printed in thick, black letters. No title, no company, just Marcia L. Greer. The elevator hummed like a distant storm. My heart pounded out a tempo somewhere between funeral dirge and revolution anthem. Floor 10. Executive Conference Suite. Inside, 3 people were waiting. Contractor rep, middle-aged guy with a face like tired granite. Lead engineer, skeptical eyes, scribbled on a legal pad even before I sat down. Legal counsel, mid-30s, hair in a tight bun, blackberry in hand like it's 2009. Let's get to it, Granite Face said. I didn't make a speech. I handed them the packet. Patent, prototype certification, manufacturing breakdown. A USB stick with the encrypted files. a backup QR code leading to my locked demo site. Then I placed the prototype on the table. Compact, elegant, no moving parts, just potential humming under the shell like a secret too long held in. I clicked a switch. The mesh flickered to life, flexed, hardened, adapted to simulated structural load in real time on the paired screen. Engineer stopped scribbling. Legal picked up the patent. Granite Face said nothing, just leaned back in his chair with his fingers steepled like a preacher listening to Judgment Day. 15 minutes later, Legal looked up. Everything's clean, filed under her name. Dates match. Company can't claim ownership post-termination. Engineer added, frankly, "This is better than anything we've seen from your old firm." Cleaner design, tighter margins, and Granite Face. He simply said, "Cancel the 10:30. His assistant was already on the phone before I could blink. "Yes, cancel the Kyle meeting. No, don't reschedule. That was it. No dramatic music. No standing ovation. Just quiet cancellation. The sound of one empire collapsing politely to make room for a better one." I sat there, composed, hands folded like a woman attending her ex's wedding just to make sure the cake sucked. Inside, though, my pulse was galloping. They saw it. They believed it. And Kyle? He was about to show up to a locked door with nothing but my ghost notes and a PowerPoint full of fiction. My work spoke for itself. And today, it screamed. The ink was still drying when the contractor slid the final page across the table and said, "Flat as blacktop, 25 million, licensing and first phase development, with full rights retained under your LLC." I didn't blink, didn't breathe, just picked up the pen and signed Marcia L. Greer, owner HG, Materials LLC, with a hand so steady it could have sutured wounds. Then Legal chimed in, flipping to the final clause. "We've added optional public disclosure rights. You decide when to announce. We'll follow your lead." It was the softest little grenade in the paperwork, a clause built for detonation. I waited exactly 48 hours, just enough time for Kyle's firm to choke on their own lies. By Thursday morning, their PR team dropped a company-wide newsletter and blasted out a release to the local business rag. Breakthrough materials, deal nearing completion, in-house innovation at work. Kyle's name was in the second paragraph. No mention of me. No mention of how they'd let go the person who actually invented it. Just photo ops of Kyle smiling like a kid who found a gun under the Christmas tree. Meanwhile, my prototype was already being moved into the contractor's test facility. They didn't just want a press release. They wanted a launch campaign, so I gave them one. Friday, 9:01 a.m. My press release hit the wires like a Molotov. Breaking. HG Materials LLC signs $25 million deal to supply smart infrastructure mesh developed by independent engineer Marcia Greer. The new material is poised to revolutionize adaptive urban systems. There was my name. There was my company. There was my photo, shot in my garage with a cracked lens, framed by the blue glow of the prototype, and a look in my eyes that said, "Try me again." By noon, 3 industry blogs picked it up. By 3 p.m., my inbox was a war zone of contracts, interview requests, and LinkedIn invites from people who wouldn't have held the elevator for me last week. But none of that mattered until 5:47 p.m., when a friend from internal ops forwarded me a link. Evening News. Segment 3. Confusion at Braytech Materials, as CEO cancels deal previously touted as in-house breakthrough, according to records obtained late Friday. Intellectual property was never owned by the company. Sources now confirm it belongs to a former employee, Marcia Greer, whose independent firm closed the deal earlier this week. The shot cut to Kyle outside their HQ, ducking into a black car while reporters shouted questions. His face was gray, eyes darting like a rat who realized the cheese was wired to a car battery. I watched from my kitchen table, sipping gas station wine out of a chipped mug that said "World's Most Average Boss." I didn't cheer, didn't gloat, but I did smile, just once, and it was the kind of smile that makes the devil put down his cards and leave the table. Kyle's resignation email dropped like a limp body off a sinking ship. After careful consideration, I've decided to explore new opportunities beyond Braytech. I'm proud of what we've accomplished, especially our strides in material innovation. The man still couldn't say my name. Word inside the company was chaos. The board had built their entire Q3 forecast around the deal, projected revenue tied to licensing, development contracts, even a public-private partnership they'd been whispering about for months. Now, gone. The stock hiccuped, then nosedived. Investors jumped ship like rats bailing with platinum umbrellas. HR launched a compliance audit, just corporate for we need to clean this blood up without admitting we stabbed anyone. And Kyle, poof, no goodbye party, no speech. Just a box of broken dreams and a Bluetooth headset clattering to the floor on his way out. They tried to spin it, of course. Leadership shift, strategic realignment. Someone even posted a tribute on LinkedIn with a picture of Kyle grinning under a banner that said "Think bigger." I nearly choked on my toast. Meanwhile, my inbox had 100 unread emails before breakfast. City firms, state contracts, venture vultures. Everyone wanted a piece of the next-gen genius who walked away from corporate to build something better. They loved the mythology, the grit, the poetic revenge arc, but I didn't reply, not to a single one. I let the emails stack like bricks. Let the voicemails rot in the queue. Let the press articles speculate about who I'd partner with next, because I wasn't chasing credit. I wasn't chasing anything anymore. I already had what I came for. My prototype, mine, was now suspended midair on a reinforced rig inside the new demo facility outside Dayton. 6 engineers circled it like it was the goddamn Rosetta Stone. They didn't know I was watching from the live feed. Didn't know the woman sipping coffee on her porch, wrapped in a flannel in silence, had birthed the whole damn thing out of grief, steel, and spite. The sunrise hit the ridgeline just right, casting the garage in warm light. My cat curled up beside me. The coffee was bitter. The peace was earned. I didn't need headlines, didn't need applause. Just the sound of nothing, finally loud enough to drown out Kyle's voice forever. What hit me the most here wasn't the revenge, it was the patience. Marcy didn't lash out. She planned. And honestly, that kind of quiet precision is the scariest kind of power in a world that rewards noise over substance. Appreciate you sticking around, you wise old rebels. Smash that subscribe button, or this fossil might just cause another epic fiasco.